I'm Jason Chaffetz in for Laura Ingraham, and this is a special edition of the Ingraham Angle. When you think about a shameless, swamp-filled D.C., it usually refers to the grift and gridlock that populate the halls of Congress and lobbying shops. But now D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is getting in on the action and begging the National Guard for help dealing with the influx of illegals coming into the city, which seems pretty hypocritical coming from someone who declared this back when Trump was being inaugurated.
I can't say it any more clearly of what it means for Washington, D.C. to be a sanctuary city and to ensure that people who live here feel free to call on their government for help.
And call on the government for help she did. Red state governors like Abbott in Texas and Ducey in Arizona have been sending illegals to our nation's capital by bus for the last few months. Some even arrived as recently as this morning. This is a very small, little, tiny portion. We're talking about 4,000 people out of millions who have crossed our border. And now that Bowser is seeing what border states have been dealing with since Biden and Harris came into office, it's not in my backyard. The Department of Defense, of course, is jumping all over this, saying, quote, the secretary takes this request for assistance very seriously. The question now becomes, if it's so easy for Bowser to call in the National Guard and get legitimate, immediate response from the Department of Defense, why aren't other states doing exactly the same thing? This was the gist of a truly remarkable back and forth at the White House yesterday that speaks to the greater issue here. Watch this.
Is the president going to approve that request for the National Guard?
We have been in regular touch with Mayor Bowser and her team. And I said this before. I said this last week about Republicans using migrants as a political tool, and that is shameful, and that is just wrong.
So the White House's preference would be for small towns in Texas and Arizona to have to take care of these migrants rather than a large metropolitan city like Washington, D.C.
That is not what I said. That is not what I said.
That is what you said.
No,
You said you think that people are using migrants.
Yeah, they are. They're sending migrants to big cities on purpose, using them as a political ploy.
So if they don't go to big cities, where should they go?
There's a process. I just laid it out.
There's a process. And they come to a big city, and now the mayor says she needs the National Guard.
That's because Republicans are using migrants who are coming here for who knows, because they're dealing with humanitarian issues back in their country. They're coming here for a better life, and they are being used. Peter, they're being used by Republican governors. That is what's happening.
Does any of this just make the president want to say, this is causing a lot of burdens on small cities, big cities, maybe I should just close the border?
What I'm saying is what Republicans are doing is wrong, and there is a process in place, and we should follow the process.
Wow. Joining me now is New York Congressman and gubernatorial candidate Lee Zeldin and Texas Congressman Chip Roy. Thank you. I had the pleasure of serving with you. Let's go to Congressman Roy first. The hypocrisy here is just dripping with hypocrisy. What's your reaction to what the White House is saying?
Oh my gosh! I mean, I could sit here for all night long. It's great to be on with my friend Lee Zeldin, and great candidate for governor in New York, and I'm proud to serve with him. Let me just say something. I mean, listening to her talk about that Republicans are using these migrants, it's offensive. It is Democrats who are using these migrants, but more importantly, it's cartels who are using these migrants. Because while the news is focused and fixated on Mayor Bowser complaining about 4,000 migrants coming to D.C. because Governor Abbott said, hey, we're going to put some bus loads and take them to D.C. When we get 4,000 a day, there were 73 human beings found in a stash house in Washington, D.C., in a stash house where they get put into the human trafficking trade because we're allowing cartels to move these human beings for profit in the false name of compassion, while my Democrat colleagues pat themselves on the back. And meanwhile, these people are put into this ridiculous trade for profit for cartels. I can't even put it into words. And to listen to the White House press secretary say we're using them, they are the ones using them. And let me tell you, there are people in South Texas who are sick of it. That's why we saw Myra Flores do well. That's why we're seeing a big change in the politics in South Texas. And, it's just a shame that my Democratic colleagues want to use them for politics.
Yeah, no, it is. It's just unbelievable they would come to that conclusion. Congressman Zeldin, the federal government has been reportedly sending secret overnight flights to New York for months. Planes filled with illegals. FBN's Edward Lawrence confronted the White House about it today. Watch this.
What's the difference between Texas busing migrants to D.C. and the federal government flying migrants to, say, New York in the middle of the night and other cities?
It's very different because we're not doing it as using migrants as a political pawn.
Congressman Zeldin, what's your response to that?
Well, first off, we have to shut down that travel agency that's flying people into New York. And the fact that they are flying people into New York in the dead of night and there's that lack of transparency really shows you a lot about what they're trying to accomplish here behind the scenes. If this was something that they were proud of, then they would be talking about these flights, and there would be data of how many flights are coming. There would be a heads up that they're coming. They would be able to stand by that travel agency. As far as what's going on at the border, that really ultimately is the way that this whole issue gets resolved. It's finishing construction of the border wall. It's ending catch and release. It's enforcing the Remain in Mexico policy and supporting our Customs and Border Patrol agents on top of shutting down that travel agency that is sending people into New York in the middle of the night.
Congressman Roy, shouldn't Muriel Bowser, shouldn't she be calling like ICE or maybe the Border Patrol? Isn't that the way to deal with this?
Yeah, you would think. But the fact of the matter is that my Democratic colleagues, and particularly the Biden administration, and in particular Secretary Mayorkas, who lied to me and every member of the House Judiciary Committee and all of America when he said that they have operational control of the border, which is a blatant lie. We could solve this problem with policy changes tomorrow. Right? I went to Eagle Pass, Texas 3 weeks ago. I went to a processing facility. Let me explain to America. They're bringing people into a processing facility. They're then processing them and releasing them into the United States under notice to appear or parole. They're not even going through asylum claim processing. The only barrier to a complete flood is the use of Title 42, and the Biden administration wants to get rid of that, that being the Title 42 policies under COVID. It's absurd. Yeah. It's a complete violation of our laws, and frankly, Secretary Mayorkas should be impeached for it, and hopefully we can address that next year.
Congressman Zeldin, Donald Trump was called a xenophobe. He was xenophobic by putting up the border wall. But Biden is now saying, despite a pledge not to put another foot of wall in place, that he's going to start filling in the wall in Yuma. Why do we think he's doing that? And what's at play here?
The right call, the will of the people on the merit, it would be to finish construction of the border wall. And to see the amount of money that the federal government was spending to not build this wall. And then you want to talk about utilizing this issue with regards to political pawns. It was this administration that we have right now that was going after our own Customs and Border Patrol and accusing them of whipping people coming across and then the media running with it. And, you know, we're seeing the stories now as you start talking about the D.C. mayor. In New York City, you had the mayor talking about how the shelters were being overrun. And you think that you have it bad? Think about being the governor right now of Texas or being the governor of Arizona. They have it 1,000 times worse. What we all should be doing is at every level working together. But this push towards sanctuary state and sanctuary city policies and this blame game and this spin with an election coming up is resulting in more people being incentivized and rewarded to come across. It's going to get worse until we confront this.
Yeah, no, clearly this is human trafficking. It's drug trafficking. But thank goodness we got Vice President Kamala Harris on top of it. Congressman Zeldin, Congressman Wright, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.